Hello everyone, welcome to my messy art desk. It's one of my sketchbooks from the 90s. Anyways, let's have a look-see, and I will warn you, there's some stuff that's hilariously bad and cringe looking back at it, but hey, teens, right? Anyways, let's have a look. A little bit of collage, I guess. Actually, I think there may be some packing tape over top of that. Little magazine titling. So first page, if you have a time machine, you can go find where I used to live when I was a teenager, if that shows up on screen. As you can see, a lot of layering. This page is mostly marker. I think that may be crayon, feels like wax crayon. But, and a lot of collage. Because back in the day, in the 90s, magazines were cheap, even for the back issues. So, and I've always been a collector, so I used to buy like 3 copies, one to keep pristine for the collection, one to cut up for, you know, pinups for my bedroom walls, and the other to slice and dice for this sort of thing. Although some of this, like that, some of these are actually photocopied onto regular paper. Anyways, and as you can see, I will warn you, there's a lot of butt drawings in here and a lot of crotch drawings. Teenage hormones, right? Oh, and of course, the ultimate cringe of writing out the lyrics, because that's what I used to do. Next page. And lots of crotch drawings as well. Mr. Reznor, well, I don't know if he calls it Mr. Some people call it Junior, I don't know. And a lot of different colors. I mean, some of these are more scattered. Later, as we get into it, you will find that there's a bunch that tend to be more monochromatic. So this one generally is, I mean, yeah, there's some red touches, but a lot of green, different. I mean, that's marker. That's probably the Mr. Sketch marker, you know, the ones that smell nice. So we all used to like huff the scent in grade school, and I still use them. Actually, I still have some of those to this day. Not as many though, and no comment on. I mean, you can't get high off of them. They just smell really good, that's all. And more wax crayon, pencil. I'd like to say that, oh, this is my first time seeing this book in, 25 years, but I kind of alluded to previous takes, so we had technical issues, so yeah. Nothing is a surprise at this point, unless I really wasn't paying attention. And wax crayon again. One of the better drawings in the book. Hopefully in focus, maybe. Other fun things from magazines back in the day, and I'll have more to say on a later page, but there sure seemed like in the 90s you got a lot more illustration done in magazines for the music industry or fandom, that sort of thing, as opposed to now, if you were to look at like classic rock or Mojo or whatnot, it's pretty much all photography and text and crammed in, but then, ad rates ain't what they used to be either. Like, I haven't seen like a little caricature like that in a long time in a magazine. So, and a couple pages that, I don't know, maybe these ones were so cringe even for me, even as a teenager. I just had to cut them out. Or they might have been math homework, I don't know, that's possible too. Once I decided this was a Trent sketchbook, I tried to keep everything else out. One of the things that relates to current work, which I know this is the first video I've been posting on this channel in a long damn time, and last time I was posting it was probably floss tube and embroidery, quilting, that sort of stuff years ago. So I don't expect most people to be familiar with the work I'm doing now, except for, 3 or 4 of my friends who actually feel obligated to watch all the crap I post. But I do tend to do a lot of stuff with bright colors, and I actually do still do a lot of work having to do with rock stars. It's one of the things that interests me, modern celebrity culture, and I could come up with a highfalutin thing like, in the the twilight of religiosity in our society, and we don't have mythic heroes like Odysseus or Hercules like the ancient Greeks did, and we really don't give a crap about the royal family other than watching them crash and burn. Thanks, Megan. You know, we don't have that many heroes per se, so celebrities have come up and by default filled in the vacuum where legends and more mythic kind of archetypical heroes used to have a place. And I don't know, that's kind of interesting to me, or at least that's my excuse for why I'm still doing rockstar drawings in my 40s. Eventually I will have a video tour of another sketchbook that I started earlier this year that's actually inspired from this one. I won't say too much yet until it's actually done, although if you follow me on Instagram, and I'll put those links down below, you probably have some idea what I'm talking about. But basically I do a webcomic. I'm just gonna pause to say I love this color combination. I know it's loud and obnoxious. And the master bedroom in my house as a grown-up is that exact shade of purple. Anyways, what I was saying is I do this webcomic. I draw it on an iPad in Procreate. And I just found earlier this year that even though I was spending hours a day working on that, I would, at the end of the day, feel like I'd done nothing, because I guess my brain is dumb and just goes, oh, if you're an iPad, it's Facebook. Like, everything on iPad is Facebook. It's just wasting time. So, and obviously it's not correct, but I started thinking of when I used to draw all the time and, like, you know, this kind of like tangible work, and this sketchbook was one of the things that I thought of. Oh, you know, I used to do sketchbooks of drawings of Trent Reznor and Marilyn Manson and all that sort of stuff in high school, and I thought that was a time when I drew a lot. And but initially I was like, oh, that's a dumb idea. You're not 18, 20, however old I was at this time. You were supposed to be grown up. Yeah, right. Anyways, so there's a project inspired by this book, although it's not Trent, and I don't do the collage in the new one because, well, you know, nowadays magazines are expensive, and if you want old back issues, you're going to eBay and paying, you know, $25 US an issue plus shipping. Don't want to chop that up, right? Which of course makes me look at this stuff and go, I should have kept it intact. I would be rich. No, of course not. But yeah, anyways, we'll when that book is done, we'll do a tour of it, and then people can compare. It's kind of a nice complementary color, kind of more the peachy versus the blue. It's kind of fun to see the line work. Hey, another crotch drawing, but that kind of line work is the same kind of drawing that I do now. Like, it's funny to see how little style changes over time, even though there's been times where I go, oh, I don't think I have a drawing style, and then, you know, I kind of look at this, go, oh no, I do. You know, I just don't want to admit it. Nice bright pink, shocking pink. Actually, it's kind of funny when you think of, at the time I was doing this book, I think my wardrobe was 100% black, except for, well, not quite. It was like 90% black and 10% leopard print. So this is where I got my bright color fix, I guess, is in the book. And a lot of the same drawings, or the same photos, got redrawn and redrawn. Like this, I know from doing previous takes, the next page, we have that. Is that the same, actually? That might not be the same. Shoulder, armpit. That might be like the same show, but, you know, the photographer does bursts. That might be a few seconds later, or kind of looks like the same shot, actually. And obviously there's stuff in here that I collaged over where it was not related to Trent. I figured out on the first take I did that had bad audio and bad video that what this is here is the original outline sketch. It's not really like a blueprint, but a fake blueprint idea for I had an iguana for 10 years, and that was the cage that we built for her. So yeah, and then obviously afterwards it's like, oh no, well, love the iguana, but she's not Trent Reznor, and she doesn't belong, her cage doesn't belong in the Trent Reznor book, so I drew over it and collaged over it, and yeah. And then the other thing I noticed is that is like, I don't know if it's ballpoint pen or Pilot pen on watercolor paper. And I just want to scream, damn it, 90s Pyra, don't you know how expensive watercolor paper is? Anyways, use it for watercolor and other wet mediums only. Plan. It's funny because I almost never use sepia tone anything nowadays. It's kind of neat to see like a spread like this and the color harmony. I tend to be more like some of the other, like nowadays I tend to be a little bit more like the previous spreads where it's just whatever marker I grabbed at the time and it's like a Crayola box vomited. But the kind of, the cohesion is actually a nice touch, I think. I'll have to try and remember that. Some of these spreads have it, because I mean these are all cool tones, mostly purple, right? And I quite like the marks in this little black drawing. I don't know if that's like a brush pen or just like a, or just I was being really flippant, for lack of a better word, with a marker, because it kind of has a really nice brushy kind of look. Earth tones, what was I thinking? We don't do earth tones anymore. Review of The Downward Spiral in Rolling Stone magazine, 4 stars. I swear that would not have anything to do with Jimmy Iovine from Interscope telling them that it better goddamn well be 4 stars. Oh yeah, this is one of the things I wanted to talk about. Obviously it's not my drawing. This is from Rolling Stone and it is by Henrik Drescher. But it's kind of neat when you look at the older magazines that I guess budgets were bigger or whatever, but they actually took the time and the money to hire artists. Not always, of course, but you know, you got a lot more of this sort of thing of hiring an illustrator to do a work inspired by the album to go with the album review. And I couldn't tell you when I last saw something like that. I know I don't read Rolling Stone as much as I used to, but even when I still had a subscription, like they had stopped doing that. And it's also, it's kind of like there's some found images, of course, and that looks like some sort of plastic. So it's a mixed media illustration. It's a really neat effect, actually. One of those fun things that you don't see much of these days, or at least you don't see much of in magazines. You see it on Instagram, of course. So we're getting to the point in the book where it wants to be a pain in the butt when I'm trying to flip the pages. Another screen. And Trent scowling, looking all pissed off for the camera that his publicist ordered to come and take photos of him and that he was warned of in advance. Yeah, I know, Trent, just look angry. It'll help convince people that you're really serious. I quite like that drawing as well. That is wax crayon for sure. Contour, one of the best ways if you're in your 20s and you want to know what you're going to look like as a little old lady or little old man, take a photo and do a contour. The slightest hint of a line when you're in your 20s is going to become a deep crevice unless you make friends with Mr. Botox. And even if you do, you're still going to get those lines. You're just going to get them in the places the doctors can't shoot up. Anyways, it's actually kind of funny when you see people who've had a lot of Botox and the way it affects their facial movements and stuff like that. But that's a topic for another day. Pencil. Marker on top. I'm pretty sure I did the crayon first and then the marker on top. Some of these interviews are kind of funny too, to see random little quotes. A couple that have gotten unstuck from wherever. If memory serves, I was just using like, you know, those yellow Yoo-hoo glue sticks. That's all that I used for inside the book. So at a certain point, they kind of dry out. Hey, look, crotch and feet for the special fetishist in the audience. And, you know, the old-timey markers. Well, I guess you can still get these now, but most people don't use them in sketchbooks or know better. But that's the back of this drawing and vice versa, bleeding through. Broken. I don't know if I should admit to this because it's going to depend what the audio sounds like, but I am using a cheap lav mic, not because my good one's busted, so that's my excuse. I'm sticking to it. But around 2009, 2010, I actually went to audio engineering school, which was Nimbus School of Recording Arts in Vancouver, which is owned by Garth Richardson, who is a big-time producer. He's the one who did Rage Against the Machine's big album, and, you know, Bob Ezrin used to come and give guest talks and stuff like that. But one of the other guys who was around, who was kind of one of my audio mentors, is Bill Kennedy. And Bill Kennedy, on Broken, he's credited as Kill Benedy, which is one of his kind of joke names, I guess, at the time. But Bill did a lot, if not the majority, of the engineering work on Broken. So, and I don't know what publication this review is from, but 5 little cross dagger thingies. Which honestly, I don't listen to Nails as much as I did back then. Kind of have to be in a mood, but I would say, to the extent that I listen to Nine Inch Nails at all now, it's Broken. Like that album, I think, or EP technically, has, for me, stood the test of time far, far better than any of their other output. But, you know, I grew up, not an angsty teenager anymore. I'm a road raging middle-aged woman, so yeah, Broken kind of fits that better, I think. This is Conte Crayon, and you can see what happens when you use Conte Crayon in a sketchbook. That is all the dust rub off, and I'm pretty sure I use spray fixative on this because I used to spray every dusty thing I did, you know, pastels or Conte or charcoal. Back in the day, I used to spray the hell out of it, and it still does that, so yeah. More contour drawings. And Trent covered in mud. He used to say he was had nightmares about someday having to go, and, you know, when his career wasn't doing so good, he was old and he would have to go to Vegas and smear himself with mud to perform at the Sands. And it was like his big nightmare. I guess he was probably glad when they demolished the Sands, but, you know, the Luxor is still there. Well, his buddy Bono is going to be doing a thing at the Sphere, the brand new venue in Vegas. But, you know, that's not a residency. It's just a series of dates on an ongoing basis. It's totally different. Anyways, kind of like this page as well, and as well as that is just like plain old highlighter. I probably should have been paying attention in calculus class, and instead I was highlighting this instead on the black drawing. And here we have a whole bunch of cringy ideas I had for tattoos. Thank God I didn't get any of these. Bad enough that I got 3 tattoos in the late 90s, early 2000s that were stupid enough that I later, not 10 years ago, but actually almost 10 years ago, I had to go start getting lasered. Laser sucks, folks. Be very careful about your tattoo ideas. By the way, if they try, some people say, oh, the laser, it's a little bit like getting cut. No, what it does is it actually explodes the ink under your skin. It's like getting cut with an electric knife, but then afterwards you feel like somebody takes a blowtorch to you. So yeah, it sucks. So don't get dumb tattoos. That's just the moral of the story. But anyways, the little seagulls and like chaos magic stars and stuff that we have in this spread are ones that I did not, come on page, that I did not actually get done. So at least I saved myself that misery. I think that's the top of Trent from the previous page where we had his crotch, and it's Trent all dolled up for a job interview, I guess. Please hire me for your keyboard synthesizer shop. I swear to God, I will not pick them up and smash them against the floor when the customers piss me off. Okay. Not a bad little drawing. I want to say that photo, the reference photo for that, I want to say is from an issue of Details magazine. I don't have it anymore, but just something stands out and tells me it was like a Antoine Corbijn shot, probably from Details. Red here. More crotch shots. We're about halfway through. Oh, we got a butt shot. And a couple of reviews of the gig that Nails did with David Bowie. More Conte crayon and Conte smudge. And there's the sticker that tells me that this at least is from at least 1997. Which I guess that actually, because the earlier drawing, where it says 96, I don't know, it's somewhere in the first 20, 30 pages. Or no, it's there, 96. But there was another one I thought that said November around the same area. But if so, like I don't specifically remember when I finished it, but just based on that other sketchbook project I mentioned that I've been working on, you know, not a lot, but, you know, 10 minutes a day since February. That one's like 60% done. So, yeah, it might have been finished in early 97. Hope there's not too much rustling as I'm moving around here. I have to use my other hand now. That's a graphic. That actually, I mean, I know that actually is Trent. I'm pretty sure of it, but it sure as hell looks more like Marilyn Manson. Ow. One of my favorite pages in this book. You know, I don't often go through and add in the black marker to get the really deep blacks on like black pen drawings, but I probably should. It looks really cool. Oh, we're starting to see depictions of the hairy chest creep in. Anyone who's seen my webcomic Noah's Archipelago will be familiar that that's still a recurrent motif, I guess you could say. Main character Noah refuses to button his shirt and has a very hairy chest as well. Anyways. More chest hair. And butts. Lots of butts. Oh yeah, there was a very brief period of time when Trent shaved his head. It was a sad period of time. I'm not sure it was actually worse than the New Orleans goth vampire look of the later 90s, but it's pretty close. They're both pretty bad. Another crotch shot and a thigh shot. These are vine charcoal that's been sprayed with the fixative, and you can kind of see these sort of really soft, well, I hope they come up and are in focus, but these kind of really soft gray tones is just like the extra dust that got stuck down in the whatever's in the spray fixative. I don't know. Some people say just use hairspray. It's probably basically the same freaking thing. This is actually oil paint stick. And you can see how it's bled through on the back. I mean, I would like to say Pyra, don't do that. And actually, if you're in a sketchbook, don't do that. It's a bad idea, and this will eventually eat a hole in the paper. But at the same time, yeah, let me look for one that's close by and easy to grab. I do some printmaking these days, and even using something called Akua inks, which is water-based and non-toxic, but it does have some oil as a carrier. I don't know, it's probably vegetable oil or something, but this is the back of one of my recent, well, it's still an in-progress print, but you can see that it's that same kind of oil staining from putting on the ink too thick, and it does bleed through. So mind you, that's also thin paper, but yeah, just for archival purposes, don't use oil paint on paper. Unless it's the special oil paper, I think has a coating or something. But anyway, still. I don't think that this, like, let's be blunt, I'm not Michelangelo or Leonardo da Vinci. I don't think in 100 years, or let alone 500 years, there's going to be a, you know, university level museum conservator trying to figure out how to save the precious Trent Reznor sketchbook, because the great artist Pyra Draculea used freaking oil paints in it and wrecked it. But in general, don't do that. Yeah, got a crotch drawing in pink. Oh yeah, Trent, when he had dreads, and occasionally would put them on in a top knot and ended up looking like some sort of weird tribal whatever. I'm not sure you can get away with that now. Well, you can, but it still looks stupid. Anyways. Adam Ant performed with the Nails at a New York show. Guess Ant's not over the hill yet. I don't know when that's from, but I can tell you in general, nowadays I listen to Adam Ant more. Although he did have to cancel a few gigs this year for health reasons, so... But he certainly wasn't over the hill in the 90s, let's say. Nice little old blue. You can tell that this is getting towards like the last quarter of the sketchbook, because I wasn't packing out the spreads as much. So I don't know if I was just getting bored of the project, or I didn't have as much time, or what. Or maybe I figured at some point I would come and finish these spreads off, and then just never did. It's kind of like, you know, when you're using a piece of gear and you leave batteries in it, and you intend that you're going to come back to it very shortly thereafter, and then 5 years go by and you find the piece of gear and the batteries have corroded inside. This may or may not have anything to do with why I'm using a cheap lav mic instead of my good one. I'm just saying it happens. Sometimes you intend to come back to things, then you just never do. So I agree with Trent about this quote. Rock and roll should be about rebellion. It should piss your parents off. It should offer some element of taboo. It should be dangerous, you know. Yes, 100%. But the dudes who used to say things like that in the 80s and 90s, funny how when they got to be their parents' age, never mind. They may still say things like that, but they behave very differently. And I think that's where I'm going to splice things back into normal. In case you noticed a couple edit points, I had a little rant where I thought, you know, I just don't. Anyways, kind of digging the all pink and magenta spread there. And this one was fun. Probably not, I don't know how in focus it might be, or readable, and I guess if, depending on what people are watching on, it's probably too small anyways. It's from a magazine, Thanks and Praises. It says, the thank you sections of your average album's liner notes are getting as long and gushy as an Oscar acceptance speech. Below an analysis of what all the shouting out's about. So this was a chart, but I only put in the Nine Inch Nails one. So does the artist thank, first question, God? Nine Inch Nails, Downward Spiral? No. Family? Nope. Fans? No. Industry people? Yes. Celebrities? Yes. Strangest thanks. The temporally displaced Richard Bugg. I don't know who that is. Probably, presumably an industry dude. Most sycophantic thanks 3 different record companies. Totals 32 people, 5 companies. Of course, that's just what you do in the music industry. Once upon a time, I used to make industrial music. Actually, I used to hang around with Dave Ogilvy, who also worked with Trent. Actually, I knew a few people who'd worked with Trent, because Bill had worked with Trent, Dave worked with Trent, and I also knew Phil Western, who had worked with Trent. Anyways, all of them got their names listed along with Garth, and I think I also said Bob Ezrin, even though I didn't know him very well. But they all got listed in the thank you sections on my EP. Definitely the first few. So it's just what you do in the business, right? Yeah, funny little quote here. This, I think, is from an interview with Marilyn Manson back in the day. Question: I know it's been probably over-asked, but people first discovering the band wonder how you and Trent Reznor hooked up. And the answer: I called an escort service for a male escort and they sent him over. Oh, remember what I was saying about New Orleans goth vampire Trent? It was an unfortunate look, wasn't it? But the illustration's kind of cool. I think the artist name is Laschi, Laschi. I have no idea what magazine that was from, because I didn't think that it was important to actually record that at the time. Blue and silver spread, and Trent's do-rag that he used to wear on tour in the late 80s. Definitely tell this stuff's getting sparse towards the end. Circus. Why is Circus magazine interviewing Trent Reznor? Circus is what I used to read in the 80s for the latest in Motley Crue gossip. Find out where Vince Neil and Izzy Stradlin were fighting this week. And who was back in rehab yet again. Usually Andy McCoy. I shouldn't say that. He was clean by that point, apparently. Other members of his band, not so much. And let's see here, some old-timey bootlegs. I don't think I owned any of those. No. I never really got into the live bootleg stuff. It's kind of not my thing. Even now, I'm not a big fan of live recordings usually. I just want to hear the studio thing. And hey, we've got the do-rag look again. And more butts. At least this one's got a bit of color on it. Do-rag, do-rag. It's kind of interesting how, you get layers of the different body parts and whatnot, and they start interacting and becoming more than the sum of the parts or whatever. Weird lines and all that sort of stuff. Hey, we are at the inside cover, folks. And let's see. What is that? And so, and just while I'm my last stuff, I'll kind of flip back open to there. So, hope you've enjoyed the little sketchbook tour. As I mentioned earlier, I'll slap my links down in the video description for anyone who's curious. Actually, probably put my main URL and Instagram on this screen, wherever. I am going to start, I think the last time I was making videos on this channel, it was a long time ago, and it was probably like textile work. But I'm not really doing much textile work. I'm starting to do more visual arts again. So I will start posting some more videos on here. But I'm not going to commit to a schedule or what's what yet. I mean, obviously I've shown, I mentioned that I do a webcomic. I've shown some printmaking. I do some cartooning. I've got another sketchbook on the go, although I won't show sketchbooks until they're like done, right? So those tours probably be fewer and far between. But I do mixed media painting as well. So I'll start posting some more videos. So your standard YouTuber lament, request, cajoling, whatever you want to call it, applies. Like, subscribe, share if you're into it. That's all cool, and I will see you on the next video. Bye for now.